Aloha! How's it? Today we're talking all about the pros and cons of LinkedIn groups so that you can grow your business and scale your impact as an expert. So, more on that in a minute. How was your weekend? As you're watching this, I am actually not here. I am boarding my flight to go to the Business by Design Next Level Experience in Orange County, California. So, I am pre recording this so you can watch it and you don't miss an episode this week. This event, I'm really excited about the event. I'll probably let you know more details when I get back. It's open to those in James Wedmore's BBD Next Level program. You'll probably hear me talking a little bit more about BBD Business by Design just because it is such a fantastic program for experts who are looking to add digital services, digital products, digital programs to their offerings. So, anyhow, am going to be there this week. You may see some fun stuff on Instagram if you want to follow me there. So I'm really looking forward to meeting everyone. If you're in Orange County and you want to ping me, let me know. Maybe there will be time for a meetup. All right, so this week it is time for Mondays with Mindy. This is a weekly show on Monday afternoons if you're based in the US, where I talk about all things LinkedIn pipeline, promo, and profiles, what I like to call the three P's of LinkedIn. So, a little teaser for those of you who love podcasts like me. My podcast, The Mango Effect, is launching in just 2 weeks. I can't believe it. 2 weeks from today on April 4th. So the trailer episode is up now at mangoeffect.com if you want to check it out, and also on Apple Podcasts. Go ahead and subscribe. Please do, because you will know when the first 10 episodes. Yes, I'm that crazy person. I did 10 episodes in advance. I'm releasing 10 at once on April 4th. And just so you know, it's not at all the same content that I share in these live streams. It's not much about LinkedIn at all. It's more of a passion project where we talk about creating our lifestyles by design, along with some pretty juicy topics relating to entrepreneurship, health, well being, surfing, relationships, building a business, or career with intention. So I'm sure you are going to love it. All right, I'm starting to post some teaser snippets. If you want to get a sneak peek of the podcast, check me out on at Mango Effect Podcast on the Instagrams. All right, do you have questions about LinkedIn that you want me to answer? Be sure to like this post, whether you're watching this live or from the replay. I will, as soon as my flight lands, I will check the comments and I will respond and answer them after the show or on a future episode of Mondays with Mindy. Now, let's get to today's topic. What's the big deal with LinkedIn groups and are they dead? Is it worth posting to groups these days if you're posting to your newsfeed already? So today's topic actually comes from one of our Mondays with Mindy listeners. He asked, Mindy, can you please share something about LinkedIn groups? I'm not sure if I should be posting to them. Should I be posting to my newsfeed? Should I start a LinkedIn group? What does the LinkedIn groups landscape look like right now? So last week we talked about getting more eyeballs with your featured section. And that leads us to today, where we're going to discuss the truth about LinkedIn groups. All right. So if any of you follow any of the LinkedIn gurus out there, you might have heard them refer to LinkedIn groups as being dead. There's a lot of posts out there that are LinkedIn groups are dead, like completely dead, like you might as well stick a fork in them dead. And I've caught myself saying the same thing when asked about LinkedIn groups from time to time because it's really easy to compare LinkedIn groups to other platforms. So, does LinkedIn groups have the capabilities of Circle, Mighty Networks, or Facebook? No. It definitely does not. If I was looking to create an all inclusive infrastructure, a robust community to support an online program or course, I would probably look at one of those other platforms. Now, caveat, I have seen some people with online courses do LinkedIn groups quite well and paired their LinkedIn group with their course, but their audience was a professional group. So they were all professionals. They all used LinkedIn already. So it was not a big deal for them to use LinkedIn groups. We're going to go deeper on that in a moment. So the bigger question is not which platform has the most robust group capabilities. Rather, it's actually where are your people more likely to frequent and engage with the community. So think about that for a moment. If your people are not on Facebook and would not ever intentionally seek out another platform to log into your community, you might be a prime candidate for a LinkedIn group, or maybe it would be a good place for you to participate in LinkedIn groups. So, what if you're not trying to start a group and you're simply wondering if they are worth your time as a way to engage with your target audience? That's where it gets to be all sorts of fun. Depending on your market, your industry, or your niche, you may have dozens of groups to choose from. The big question is really, will you actually get results from interacting with these groups? So let's talk about the ins and outs of LinkedIn groups, when they make sense, when they don't make sense, what you can do to make the most of them if you run or participate in LinkedIn groups. All right, so aloha. For those who don't know me, my name is Mindy Rosser. I'm the founder of Mindi Marketing, and I have a group program called the LinkedIn Accelerator for those who want to go from 0 to 60 on LinkedIn with their profile and their network. The next cohort is opening for enrollment in early April, which is like a week and a half away. So get on the wait list if you want to be the first person notified. I help professionals who are the best kept secret in their industry to become that go to visible expert in their niche so they can get that next opportunity, grow their business, and scale their impact using LinkedIn. In this live, we are going to talk about how completely ignoring LinkedIn groups can actually cause you to not gain the traction you want on LinkedIn, and how you can work in some LinkedIn groups experimentation so that you can get more clients and business opportunities this year. Are you ready? Let's do this. Go ahead and like this post, whether you're live, watching from the replay, to give it some social love. All right, so you're curious about LinkedIn groups. You wouldn't be watching this if you were not. Maybe you have found a few that are actually vibrant communities where you are able to message group members who'd make a perfect fit as a partner or as a prospect, or you'd like to do business with them in some way. Maybe you're wondering where to start and you don't want to waste your time with groups if it's not going to be worth it. So, should you discount groups completely, or should you try an experiment to see if it helps you grow your network faster and get into more conversations? Confession time here. I actually have a Facebook group that goes along with my membership, and also another free Facebook group all about LinkedIn, right? Oh, the irony. So you may even be watching this live stream now inside that Facebook group. But I also have a LinkedIn group with more than 2,200 members. And I actually get about a dozen requests per day of people requesting to join that LinkedIn group. So I do nothing to grow the LinkedIn group, and it seems to grow weekly and daily on its own without much help from me. Contrary to my Facebook community, which I am actively promoting and trying to drive people into it. Recently, I realized there's a ton of potential in my LinkedIn group that I am not tapping into. It's because I have this misconception around groups from all the other gurus that have said LinkedIn groups are dead, can't really start conversations. Why waste your time? And I realized I was falling prey to that line of thought as well. So I'm changing things right now. And I decided to start running some experiments in my own group. Why not? It might take me a whopping 10, 15 minutes per week to do, and I might be surprised about the relationships I can build. We'll get into what I'm doing in that group in a bit. But for now, let's just focus on the potential of LinkedIn groups. So, who's your target market? Which communities are you wanting to be a part of right now? If your market, if the people you want to connect with tend to skew towards professional audiences, and you have a hard time reaching them on Facebook or Instagram, then LinkedIn groups might be a really good place to start looking. So many of the clients I have worked with over the years have managed or participated in LinkedIn groups, and their results were actually all over the spectrum. I'm not going to say LinkedIn groups are the end all be all, they are not. But it depends on your audience. And you don't want to just immediately discount them because you heard somebody say they're dead. So some felt like they were posting content and never getting responses or engagement. Others of my clients use LinkedIn groups to drive traffic to their content. Others found that direct messaging members inside LinkedIn groups who were a perfect fit for them helped them to minimize the risk of sending the connection invitation and it not being seen or accepted, because messages actually go directly to the group members' LinkedIn inbox. Your intention for using LinkedIn groups is absolutely key to your success and whether or not LinkedIn groups are going to be a fit for you. Just keep in mind that you may have to work just a little harder to find and intentionally engage in your groups, because LinkedIn doesn't have as many, I would say, almost annoying notifications set up to let you know when activities happen inside your groups. So, what you will have to do is you will have to set aside time. You will have to be intentional about the groups you want to engage in. You aren't going to get a bunch of pings in your notifications letting you know what's happening in your groups. But I'll show you a couple workarounds for your favorite groups. And another wonderful thing about LinkedIn groups, professional audiences are key. So if you are in the B2B space, so business to business, and your people are on LinkedIn, you are probably going to find a good number of groups that are already started that you can join and be a part of. And your audience may or may not be very active there. If your target market is in the B2C, so business to consumer space, you are not going to get much out of LinkedIn groups. You could probably just stop watching this now, head over to Facebook, head over to the Instagram, and connect with your people over there. I would focus on Facebook communities as a starting point for those B2Cs. I work with some B2Cs and they love Facebook communities, depending on your market, depending on who your demographics are. But if you're looking for an easy place to start a community and you're in B2C, I would look at Facebook. Okay, so let's talk through some of the really neat features inside LinkedIn groups and how you can use them. If you have not sat down to think deeply about the groups you want to join or one you'd like to start, it's high time that you do so as an expert. Too many experts just start joining, like I call it start joining. They just start randomly typing in searches and joining a bunch of groups without a plan or a purpose. It's not enough to be a part of a LinkedIn group, as you will actually need to work them if you want to see results. So you can't just join the group and expect good things to happen, expect people to message you. Nothing's going to happen if you just join the group and don't do anything with it. So let's talk about 5 things you need to know to get started with LinkedIn groups so that you can land more opportunities and scale your impact. So, number 1 is going to be identify the best groups. This seems like common sense, but you really need to be thoughtful about the groups you join. So, you want to start with identifying the best groups for your areas of expertise and where you think you'd find the people inside your market. I'd recommend running a search using some good keywords, then look to join, I would say, 5 to 10 LinkedIn groups. So, 5 to 10 LinkedIn groups that seem to have a good number of members inside them. The thing is, with LinkedIn groups, you're not really going to know if the group is actually good until you get inside the group. So just do your best to guess based on the information that is provided when you are running your LinkedIn search for these groups to see, okay, think there's enough members in here. If there are not too many members, it's highly likely that it's either one, a very new group, or two, a very dead group. So you definitely want to look for groups that have 1,000 members or more. That's what I would start with. If you are looking and you're not seeing groups with 1,000 or more people in them, and there's only several hundred, then try joining those groups that are a bit smaller. Look inside. Sometimes they may just be growing. Sometimes your market just may not be that big. And so it's okay if there are several hundred, but usually I'm looking for 1,000 or more members inside of a group. All right, so you're going to identify some groups. Number 2, you're going to set your intention. So you're going to get clear on what you intend to do while you are a LinkedIn group member. Here are some options. If you're like, Mindy, I don't know what to do. Are you trying to generate leads? Do you want to message other members? Do you want to drive traffic to your content? Do you want to get into two-way conversations? Do you want to reshare your newsfeed content to the groups? It's very important that you know what you're planning to do inside your groups, because once you're inside, you'll be able to tell whether or not the group is a good fit for your intention. So, what do I mean by that? For example, if you are trying to drive traffic to your content, but you see in the group rules that you're not allowed to share links, that group is not going to be a good fit because you can't share any content. Or maybe you want to message members and it looks like the group is filled with a bunch of spam bots. Like you're looking at the list of members and none of them are in your target market. And you're thinking, I don't even know if those are real profiles. That's a warning sign that that group may not be a good fit. Do you stay inside the group or do you leave the group? I would recommend just leaving the group. Like if you know that it's not a good group, just leave the group. No big deal. All right, so number 3, you are going to run an experiment. So let's say you found a good group. Like out of the 5 to 10 that you joined, you're like, about half of them look like good groups. I want to run an experiment. Then you are going to set an objective for that group based on the intention that you set. For example, what should you do next? If you want to get leads, you are probably going to actually message people and then you're going to pay attention to how people respond. What about if you want to drive people to your content? You're going to share a piece of content and then you're going to pay attention and see how much traffic you got to that piece of content. So think of these as very, very simple experiments. Depending on what your objectives are for LinkedIn groups, I would say run an experiment, and this experiment should not take you more than 15 to 20 minutes every single week. So write that down, please. I've seen so many people go down rabbit trails with their LinkedIn experiments. They make them too complicated. They add too many steps. They too many variables. So really pay attention to your experiments. Keep them very, very minimal and think about what is actually going to prove to you that the group is a good group for you. Now, I would recommend, okay, you're not going to spend more than 15 to 20 minutes per week on your experiment. You're going to do this for a period of 30 days. So 1 month. Why do I say 1 month? I recommend 30 days because that's enough time to figure out how each group operates, what types of content to post, how best to message members, or whatever else you're trying to figure out. If you try to shorten that period to like 7 to 14 days, you're not going to get the amount of data that you need to make a good decision. So I say 30 days, 15 to 20 minutes a week for 30 days. Anybody can do that if you're just running one experiment. So, for example, let's talk through a couple of experiments. If my objective was to drive traffic to my content, I would try sharing one post per week in the group with a special bit.ly link. So, if you don't know what bit.ly is, bit.ly, this link will actually track how many clicks it receives. So, you will know if you use a special bit.ly link for your post, how many people actually clicked on your piece of content. If you're not getting enough traffic after those 30 days from a few posts that you have shared in that group, I would reevaluate my strategy. Maybe you need to change your content. Maybe the group is kind of dead. Maybe you want to try sharing the content in a different way and putting the link in the comments instead of in the post. Something obviously is not working. So you need to figure out, number one, is this a good group? And number two, how can you improve your results? Okay, another example. If my goal was to message members to get into some two-way conversations, I might message 5 to 10 people per week that are inside each group to see how many respond positively. If I'm noticing that one group is really good, like, all right, the members in that group actually respond, or we have a good number of prospects or perfect fit opportunities or potential partners inside this group. Okay, maybe I will do most of my messaging inside one group and not all 5 or 10 of the groups because you're getting good results. So that's another example of an experiment that you could run. 5 to 10 people per week. You're not spending more than 15 to 20 minutes. You're probably sending them something similar and a templated message that is personalized to an extent. So it doesn't have to be that complicated. People make things on LinkedIn very complicated. You don't have to go crazy with the experiments that you run. You don't have to spend a ton of time. You don't have to hire a virtual assistant. You don't have to hire an expensive LinkedIn consultant to run these things. You can do it. I promise you, you can do it. Keep it super, super simple. All right, so number 4, evaluate your results. So after you run your LinkedIn group experiments, you're going to look at your results. You're looking to confirm your hypothesis of whether or not that group is a good one, or if LinkedIn groups in general are a good use of your time. So if you're noticing one group perform really well, the other few were like, not so good. Okay, well, do you want to spend all of that time just on that one group? Are you going to get good enough results to continue doing LinkedIn groups in general? Do you need to find some other groups and test those? What are you going to do as a result of your experiment? This is really key. A lot of people go down rabbit trails, like we talked about, because it's like, not sure what to do. I'm kind of deliberating. I'm not sure. You need to determine whether your results are showing that there's potential, that it's a good enough strategy to continue. If you are getting better results elsewhere and you have limited time, should you be spending time on LinkedIn groups? Probably not, unless you see the potential for them to take off, or you're like, maybe I haven't exactly proven it yet, but give me another 30, 60 days and I'll have a better idea. So it's really critical that you can make these types of decisions and that you can analyze what's working and what's not. For example, I've had some clients who were completely surprised that their groups actually performed well, while others determined it was a complete waste of time. But we ran small experiments, so the cost was not that high to them. It's like, okay, let's run these 30, 60, 90-day experiments. Let's figure out what we learned. If all you take away from your 30-day LinkedIn groups experience is some learning about LinkedIn groups in general, you'll be able to test those same tactics or strategies in other areas or on another platform. So, no learning is wasted here. That's the beauty of this. That's the beauty of being an expert. You get to test things, you get to experiment, figure out what works, what doesn't. Remember, things change on LinkedIn all the time. So, even if groups did not work for you in the past, they may work for you in the future. So give it a test. Give it a test. If you're curious, give it a test. All right. So I know a lot of you have been asking, what does it look like inside a group, especially if you manage one? So we are going to take a sneak peek at my group here. So I'm going to share my screen briefly. We're not going to go through all the details of running a group, but just so you can see what it looks like. This is basically what a LinkedIn group looks like. And when we are here, you'll see at the top we have pending posts. So those are posts that people submit that I can approve to go into the group or not. Request to join are people that are requesting to join the group. Analytics is really neat. There didn't used to be analytics in LinkedIn groups, and now we have analytics. So we can see how many people are joining, how many are active members. You can see that this number is going up. I am definitely noticing this uptick across the board in groups, which is pretty exciting. And then engagement. We can see engagement metrics, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to populate. And yes, I need to be posting more inside of this group. All right, so over here, we also see this little bell. So if people hit the bell, basically it is going to notify them every time that a post, like you can see here, once all posts in this group require admin review, group admins will receive all your group notifications. So I have this notification setting disabled. But people can actually be notified of posts that are going into the group. This didn't used to happen, and now I am stoked that people can actually hit the bell and get notified in their notifications here when a post is shared to the group. Also, the pinned by admin. I love this feature for things that I want to highlight. So I will pin stuff to the top, which definitely keeps things fresh and active. All right, and then also as an admin here, you can see the manage notifications. People will see this as a group member. Manage notifications, update your settings, or leave this group. So if you're trying to manage as a member what you want to do in that group and how many notifications you want to see, you can do all of that right here. All right, and you'll see that also there's like an about this group and a section about what the group is about, the admins, the manager. So it is pretty straightforward. You can also invite your connections to join your group. So if you have a number of people that you think, oh, I have a lot of connections that would actually benefit from this group, you can do that as well. All right, so that's a sneak peek of what it looks like inside of groups. Now, something that you may not have thought about. If you're interested in starting your own group, you may also want to consider taking over ownership for someone who no longer wants to run their group. There are a lot of group owners out there that are trying to offload their groups. You will not see that publicly, but a lot of them do not want to manage them anymore. So if you go into a group, you feel like there's a really good membership base, but you feel like there's really not that much happening in here, I would reach out to the group managers, the admins, and ask them if they're interested or they want help moderating the group. Or if you really want to be ballsy, then you can ask if they're open to, handing over the group at some point after, you know, some talks or consideration, or maybe you volunteer for the group for a while. But this is actually how I got into the group that I have. I was managing the group for some years, and the former owner did not want to do it anymore and said, I don't really see the value in this. You can just have the group. I'm just going to give you ownership of the group. So here I am with a group that's growing at a rate of, 12 or dozen per day. And I didn't start the group. I didn't have to put in that hard work at the beginning. So something to think about if you are thinking, I really want to explore LinkedIn groups. Maybe you can manage some, learn how they work, and then determine if that's something that you want to do in the future. All right. So how are you feeling about LinkedIn groups now? Are you kind of surprised with the different approaches you can take with groups? If you are going to try joining some groups or possibly starting or taking over an existing group, I would love to hear about your experience. If you've had good experiences, bad experiences with groups, leave it in the comments. Like, I'm very curious how people are using groups these days because it is something that many LinkedIn people do not talk about. So let's recap what you need to get clear on when you're starting out with LinkedIn groups. Okay, so number one, you're going to identify the best groups. Number two, You're going to set your intention. Make sure you have an objective for your groups before you start diving in and looking at groups like, oh, what do I do now? Then, number three, you're going to run an experiment. So, 15 to 20 minutes a week is how long you're going to spend. You're going to do this for 30 days. And then you're going to evaluate your results and figure out, are groups a fit for me right now, or do I need to look elsewhere? All right, so what additional questions do you have about LinkedIn groups? Leave your comments below or shoot me a private message. I am happy to answer them. And if you are ready to get started with LinkedIn and take the next step to optimize your profile once and for all, so you can start growing your network on the regular or land your next opportunity, join me inside the LinkedIn Accelerator program. We are opening in early April. Super excited about this next class. I have a few extra things planned for this next cohort. So get on the wait list so you will be the first notified. I will see you next week on Mondays with Mindy. Feel free to leave questions or comments below, and my inbox is open if you want to message me directly.